Well, welcome everyone. As you can tell, this meeting looks a little different. Due to COVID-19 pandemic, we're holding our meeting via video teleconference. Because the City Council has declared a local emergency for the COVID-19 pandemic, state statute allows us to hold our meetings remotely. Even though we aren't meeting in person, we want to make sure the public can participate. If you have joined the Zoom meeting, you'll notice that you are muted. We have a moderator on the call who will unmute those who wish to speak during the public comment portions of the meeting. Public comments will be reserved for visitor presentations, public hearings, or special circumstances determined by the commission. Once we reach those parts of the agenda, I will ask if there are any public comments. If you wish to speak and have joined the meeting by computer or tablet, please click on participants on the bottom of your screen and then select raise hand icon. If you wish to speak and have joined by the phone, press *9 to raise your hand. Once your hand is raised, the moderator will announce your name or phone number and unmute your line. Please remember that the public comment is provided at the discretion of the commission, is meant to provide productive discourse on topics related to the city of Chaska. Speakers shall refrain from comment or behavior that's deemed disorderly, derogatory, obscene, indecent, or off topic. Any person engaging in such speech or action may be muted or removed from the meeting. Those of you watching online or on Comcast Channel 15, please be aware of the following. Some of our commissioners, city staff, and presenters are participating in the meeting remotely. There's a delay between a live meeting and the broadcast. All commission actions will be taken by a roll call vote. We're working hard to make sure you can be heard as we protect everyone's health and safety. Thank you. So I'd like to call to order the December 1st Heritage Preservation Commission meeting. Liz, good evening. Could you please do a roll call?
Yes, I can. Commissioner Davies?
Present.
Coleman?
Present.
Mueller?
Oops.
Present.
Thank you. Place?
Present.
Welbert?
Present.
And Chairperson St. John.
Present. Thank you, Liz. Adopt the agenda. Has everyone had a chance to review the agenda? And would anyone like to make a motion?
So moved. Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye by a roll call from Liz.
And then Russ, if you could just reiterate who first and who seconds the motion.
Oh,
so
okay.
that it's very clear to the people.
Okay.
So that was, I'll let you.
I don't remember who said the first one. Was it
It was Davies was the first.
Commissioner Davies made the motion. It was seconded by Steve?
Yes.
Second by Steve.
Okay.
I will do a roll call.
Yep, and a roll call. So Commissioner Davies,
Aye.
Coleman,
Aye.
Mueller,
Aye.
Place,
Aye.
Welbert,
Aye.
and Chairperson St. John.
Aye. Okay, next, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak about something that is not already in tonight's agenda? We don't have anyone in the audience that would like to speak about anything. We'll move to item number 5, approving the previous HPC minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the March 3rd, 2020 HPC minutes? Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Who made the motion? Steve?
Yes.
I'll
Move
second.
to approve them.
Steve and Christine seconded. A roll call, please, Liz.
Yep. Commissioner Davies,
Aye.
Coleman.
Aye.
Mueller,
Aye.
Place,
Aye.
Welbert,
Aye.
and Chairperson St. John.
Aye. Excellent. As there's no consent agenda items to discuss tonight, we'll move to item number 7, action item. We have one item under action items, which is a public hearing reviewing the site alteration permit to demolish the existing garage and construct a new garage at CP Klein Mansion. Reference HPC number 2020-03. Liz, would you please get us started?
Yes, I will. So I'm gonna do a presentation. I'm gonna share my screen here. Bear with me. Can we all see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Full screen mode. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, members of the Heritage Preservation Commission and Chairperson St. John. We have a site alteration permit request tonight, specifically for the CP Klein Mansion, which is located at 205 4th Street East here in downtown Chaska. The site alteration permit request is specifically for demolition of the existing detached garage there. And in addition, the construction of a new detached garage. So the first slide I have here is an aerial photograph of the site itself. Just want to give you an aerial perspective of kind of the layout of the site. I'm putting my cursor over the property lines of the site. So the CP Klein Mansion, which is kind of the main structure on the property, is the red tiled roof structure you see here. And then they have a detached garage off on the northeast portion of the property, kind of tucked back in there. So again, this property is a corner property and it's oriented on the intersection of 4th Street East and Walnut Street North in downtown Chaska. So it's kitty corner from City Square Park. You have the Moravian Church just across Walnut Street. And then we have the Rick Ford building just to the south across 4th Street. We have a residential property on the eastern side as it abuts the alleyway. And then we have the historic row homes just to the north with their detached garage structure adjacent as well. Also shown here is a certificate of survey of the property if we need to refer back to it for any reason for dimensions and so forth, but this just gives you an accurate depiction of the existing conditions out there, the way the house lays out, and how the detached garage lays out on the northeast side there. As you can see, the main home is kind of pushed back into the site, so it really presents this large front yard aspect of the property. They have driveway access off of Walnut Street, so that's kind of tucked on the northernmost portion of the property, which accesses the existing detached garage today. There's a porte cochere element on the building that also kind of highlights that driveway and access into the detached garage. So just a little bit of background on this property in particular. So the house itself was constructed in 1911, and it was constructed for the Klein family, which is a prominent family of Chaska's history. They were associated with the brickmaking business as well as banking in the city here. So they've had a very prominent presence in the city of Chaska. And then it's uncertain, but we believe between the years of 1911 and 1924, the detached garage was constructed on the site. And it was also constructed of the same brick that you see on the Klein Mansion. And then fast forward several years to 1967. Between that time and 1988, the building did act as City Hall for the city of Chaska. So until our newest and current City Hall was built, that's where all of the governmental functions of the city were held, was in that building. And then subsequently, it transitioned over into the History Center, the Historical Society, and was also the DMV for a time. And then it wasn't until 2003 that it transitioned over to a private residence, and it's had numerous owners since 2003. And kind of one notable time frame between 2007 and 2009 was when some private developers purchased the property in hopes of converting it to a restaurant use. So it was back in 2007 that the HPC also reviewed a site alteration permit for this property to convert it into a restaurant use. And that was approved. However, the restaurant use ultimately never happened, just due to the timing and the recession during that time. So again, it's been in private ownership since 2003, and then it was in 2017 that it was purchased by the current owners, as well as the applicants tonight, Sarah and Neil Amundsen. In terms of the historical significance of this property, one being that the Klein family did occupy this structure and being a very prominent family here. Another being kind of the architectural significance of this site. So it is a unique site, and being that it is 3 stories tall. It is made out of brick, but it's not the traditional Chaska brick that you see in most of the downtown Chaska buildings. Rather, it is a unique custom-made brick placed on that building in the detached garage. So some of the things that kind of make it stand out is its symmetry, how it's kind of organized and designed in a symmetrical format. Another notable element is the 2nd-story balustrades, which is the white railing element you see on the 2nd story there. Again, the unique custom brick. Unfortunately, we were not able to find kind of the origins of this brick. So it's hard to say where it actually came from. Another notable element is the red clay tile hipped roof, and then the full front porch that basically wraps around both the west and south sides of the building. So it was in 1980 that it was placed on the National Historic Register as a contributing building in the Walnut Street Historic District. So there are numerous buildings on the Walnut Street corridor there that were placed into a national district known as the Walnut Street Historic District. So this is one of those prominent buildings that contributes to that national status. As well as being nationally designated, it is also locally designated too. Unfortunately, I couldn't find a lot of really old photos of this structure, which I was surprised by, but I've included everything that I could find electronically. It's hard to say what the time frame is on these upper photographs here, but just give you some kind of old depiction of the property. I've also included a photo of when it used to be the Chaska History Center. So there was kind of an old monument sign, which has since been removed. So in terms of existing conditions on this property, it was noted that since 1988, that limited maintenance has been done to the site for both the house and the garage. So when the Amundsen stepped in 2017, they have certainly done a lot of work on maintaining and repairing some of the elements of the building itself. And we thank them tremendously for being able to do that. But some of the work that they have done up until this time here is they've installed new roofing on the low sloping roofs. They replaced the 2nd floor balusters, or the white railing on the 2nd floor there. They also removed that fire access staircase. I don't know if a lot of you remember that staircase, but it was put in when it was contemplated or when it had the non-residential uses attached to it. So it was required per fire code to have that there, but since they've converted it back to a residence, they have since removed that, which maybe in my opinion was kind of an eyesore for the building itself. So definitely a huge plus there in removing that. In addition, they have also hired numerous professionals to assess the site, both the house and the garage, to kind of understand the conditions that they're faced with. One of the professionals they hired was a structural engineer, which looked at both the house and the garage. We did attach the report that the structural engineer did in 2017 to the packet, and it's available online as well, just to give you a clear idea of kind of what their professional interpretation was of the structure of the detached garage. In terms of the condition of the detached garage, so it's a 2-stall brick structure. Again, the brick is the same brick that you see on the home. It's also considered non-conforming in terms of zoning because it currently does not meet required accessory structure setbacks. So when a structure doesn't meet setbacks, it puts it into a non-conforming status. So when a building is non-conforming, when you start to touch it in terms of alterations, it starts to trigger the requirement to bring it into conformance. You can do general maintenance to non-conforming buildings like re-roofing, re-siding, painting, but as soon as you start to touch the structural elements of the building, you're starting to change, and ultimately in most cases you're enhancing or expanding the non-conformity. So with structural alterations, especially ones that are significant, it does trigger the need to make it a conforming building, which would mean that it would have to meet setbacks in this case. So that's kind of the current status of the existing detached garage, the way it sits right now. So being able to alter it or structurally change it does put implications on it in terms of zoning. So that poses a challenge in itself. And then getting back to the structural engineer's assessment of the structure, they did determine that the building is structurally unsound due to rotting soffits, large cracks in the walls, leaning walls, severe settlement, and twisted out of plumb corner. So the repairs that are required to correct these issues are significant, and from their professional opinion, it would essentially be rebuilding the structure to completely repair those concerns. So in terms of their interpretation, the cost of fixing it would cost a lot more than demolishing and rebuilding an entirely new structure. The applicant has also included a segment of photos just showcasing kind of the existing conditions of this garage. So we have kind of more of a zoomed out perspective in these two photos, one looking from 4th Street, again, also looking from the view of 4th Street into the site. This is more so from the alleyway. And then we have a view from the driveway coming off of Walnut Street from the Porte Cochere. More zoomed in focals of the building itself. So this is kind of within the front yard or side yard area, looking northerly at the building. This is also taken from the alleyway, looking more southeasterly at the property. So as you can see, it's an elevated structure, so it already has concerns with kind of the foundation elements of the building and that starting to crumble. And then we have kind of a more zoomed in perspective of the northwest corner here and then the southeast corner here. Again, you can start to see some of the crumbling nature of the foundation here. Even more close zoomed in perspective of kind of that foundation, the severe cracking that's occurring on the north side here too, abutting the neighboring property, and then a close-up of the northwest corner. So you can start to see the unsettling happening just in the brickwork itself. There's a lot that has to be done to fix this. So reverting back to what the applicants are specifically requesting tonight. So they are asking for a site alteration permit, specifically to demolish the existing detached garage, which is primarily to salvage the brick from this structure to be able to use on the main home. Since the main home is kind of the prominent element of this site, the applicants saw a huge advantage in using the salvage brick from this building to use and continue to use on the home where needed. In addition to that, they would like to construct a new detached garage with storage and a new fenced-in area to really create kind of a private yard space. So as you kind of know the property today, there's really not a private area of that property. It's open. It's traditionally been seen as a civic public building. And now that it's converted back into a residence, you know, the owners wish to have kind of a more traditional private yard space as a result of that. So getting into the details of kind of the requests. So they are requesting a detached garage with storage, which would total 1,018 square feet in size. And when we talk about this square footage piece here, they are meeting zoning requirements in terms of size. Zoning ordinance does allow for up to 2 accessory buildings, one at 768 square feet for a detached garage, and then one at 256 square feet for a storage shed. So we have in the past allowed properties to combine those square footages into one and then basically consider that their allowance for the site. So they wouldn't be allowed any additional sheds or anything of that nature if they've already maxed out their square footage quota. So that square footage would allow them to get a 3-stall garage and then an attached storage area that they would keep basically their gardening pieces, lawnmowers, so forth. The height of the detached garage they're requesting is averaging out at 15 feet in height. And just want to note that the way we measure that per definition of zoning is it's measured from the grade to the eave, and then you take the average from the eave to the pitch. So it's not necessarily from a bottom to top measurement. We're really trying to average out the height of the roof itself into that total height requirement. One major change with this detached garage, other than the fact that it will be bigger than the existing one, is the access for it. So this property does abut an alleyway, which traditionally downtown properties utilize that alleyway to access their detached garages. So this, I'm sure the alleyway was probably put in shortly after the detached garage was put up, and that was probably why they accessed off of Walnut Street, and it's just remained that way on the property since. They haven't touched kind of the arrangement of the garage itself. So it does make sense for them to gain access from the alleyway, since that was that's primarily the reason for its existence, is for detached structures and garages to be able to access from there. In terms of the materials they're proposing for this detached garage, the siding will be stucco, and then the roofing will be a standing seam metal roof. And just noting with kind of the material choices here, you know, they could have done kind of a masonry route and tried to implement a brick onto this building. However, due to the unique nature of the brick that's found on both this building and the home, it's very difficult to replicate, especially since it's no longer being manufactured. So with that, they kind of made a conscious decision to move over to stucco, which would be more of kind of an accessory material, which is appropriate for an accessory building. The color will ultimately match the main brick on the home to further provide cohesiveness between the buildings. And then with the standing seam metal roof, again, that's not necessarily a historic material or roofing material found on historic properties. However, it has started to be implemented into other historic properties. I will say that it has been only implemented on more public or civic buildings here in downtown. So the current city hall has a standing seam metal roof. The Chaska Mill building, which is also historically designated, implemented a standing seam metal roof. And then as well as 218 Pine Street, which is another property owned and renovated by the Amundsens. They also implemented a standing seam metal roof there. So it's not something that's new in downtown. However, I'd like to hear discussion on that tonight in terms of what the HPC's thoughts are in terms of complementing the Klein Mansion. And then additionally, with their desire to create more of a private yard space, they are installing a 3-foot high decorative steel fence, primarily in the front yard area. So kind of on the south edge of the home and the east side to kind of connect into the detached garage. And I'll provide a spec of that later on here. And then they're also showing a privacy fence on the north edge of the property in the rear yard area. And this is primarily to kind of provide that physical separation from the northern property. There's accessory buildings that really butt up next to the edge of their property. So it would provide some privacy as well as a physical separation from the neighboring property to the north. Here's a more overall view of kind of the proposed layout of the detached garage here in relation to the Klein Mansion. So as you can see, it's oriented to the northeast side, which is basically maintaining kind of the same placement of the existing detached garage. Again, the major change you'll see is the access from the alleyway. I'm going to zoom into this other one, just to give you a clear view of it. So again, there will be 3 stalls on this garage, and then you'll see the attached storage area just to the south of that. In addition to kind of what they're adding onto this structure, they're also showing a wood arbor trellis-like element on the south side here to kind of provide more of a decorative accent piece to the building, which also lends itself to kind of tie in with some of the accessory elements of the main structure here with it being white. And then also you can see lined up with where kind of the front porch areas where they're planning to put that 3-foot high ornamental fence just on the south side and then wrapping around on the east side to again kind of create that private yard separation here between the home and the detached garage. That ornamental fence will also run along where the existing driveway is, behind the porte cochere element, again, which is that carport element attached on the north side here. And then the privacy fence will essentially be kind of that northern edge piece to kind of block the view of the adjacent property. And then this is where you'll see kind of a layout of how they wish to provide some private yard space for the site. Due to some of the grade changes too, it's important to show that this area will be higher up than the alleyway. Today exists a retaining wall due to the grade changes there, roughly 3 feet high. So this side of the building will look taller than the other sides due to those grade changes. But again, the height of the building itself will average out at 15 feet, which is meeting zoning. Here's a couple elevation drawings showing kind of the design and how it fits in scale-wise with the Klein mansion. So the first drawing is showing the west elevation. So this is what you see through kind of the port kosher carport element. So this will be looking west. And then this is obviously from what you see from the alleyway. Again, it tends to look a little bit taller there, just again, due to the grade changes on that side. And then the other side, so the north elevation, so again, this would be facing the neighboring property, and then the south side, which you would see from the 4th Street East. This is essentially what you would be seeing. So again, kind of giving you some perspective in terms of height in comparison to the Klein mansion. Again, the thought process was to mimic the roof sloping that you see on the Klein mansion, bring in some elements that are also found kind of on the Klein mansion as well, and in the existing detached garage with the cornice element right under the eave there. So a lot of thought, again, was put into the overall design of this structure. And then the next few slides are going to be renderings, just showing multiple views, more realistic views of this detached garage. So again, this is kind of more of a bird's eye view, looking northeasterly. This is from more so from kind of the intersection of 4th Street and Walnut. This is a perspective from 4th Street, the same below here, just a little bit different angle. And this is the port kosher piece that I keep mentioning. Again, one of the things that they were thinking of in the design process is maintaining that visual that you see from Walnut Street. So today, what you see is kind of the detached garage lined up with this driveway and the port kosher perspective. So they wanted to maintain that as you're kind of looking through here. And here's a more zoomed in perspective of that. And this is kind of, again, moving closer from the driveway piece. And then here's a more zoomed in perspective looking north from kind of the front yard view. From the alleyway on kind of both directions here. And then this slide includes basically the material specs and almost true to color what they're hoping to do. So the top left is the metal standing seam metal roof. So they're doing a terracotta color, which would tie in with the red clay tiled roof. Below is the stucco and the lace texture that they're going to use, but the color is not necessarily what they're using. They're going to closely match the existing brick out there. So that'll probably just be one element that we'll have to follow up on administratively just to ensure that color matching is done well. A spec of the decorative fencing that they wish to use. In addition to being cohesive with the Klein mansion, they're currently using these light fixtures on the building today. So they'll bring that element onto the detached garage as well. They'll be using decorative garage doors, and then kind of your standard door and window specs here as well. So getting into kind of the analysis for historic sites and structures. This is going to be kind of a two-part piece here with this request, understanding or analyzing the validation for the demolition. So when we look at demolition for historic structures, we look at 4 primary matters to be considered. So one of these have to be met in order for demolition to occur. And then this is, I would say, more significant if we were looking at the Klein mansion. We are looking at the detached structure, but still, since it's made out of the same brick material, we kind of have to look at it in a similar manner. But the magnitude of the demolition of this structure is not as great compared to if we were looking at the Klein mansion itself. Anyways, there was really one primary matter that stood out for the validation of this demolition from a staff perspective. And that was relating back to item B, which is preservation of the resources deterrent to a major improvement program that will be of substantial benefit to the community. So that interpretation is looking at the Klein mansion itself and being a major project in itself. So the brick that's on the detached garage, like I said before, this brick has not been able to be found or replicated. So it does pose a lot of challenges in trying to maintain or repair or replace it on these buildings. And the Klein mansion has already shown a couple areas, which I'll show in a different slide, of where brick repair would need to happen. And consequently, as a result of that, there's potential that some brick may need to be replaced. So again, the fact that there is not a known manufacturer of this brick makes it really hard to, again, try to replicate that. So we see the value in demolishing the detached garage as a benefit to the main structure for the Klein mansion to be able to maintain the original brick on that structure, which we would weigh in as being the more significant structure on the property. So putting a lot of emphasis on maintaining and repairing that where possible. So again, we see the demolition as a benefit to help maintain the Klein mansion building. In addition, the demolition and rebuilding of the detached garage would also take away that non-conforming status that it currently has. So the new garage being proposed will be meeting setbacks and height requirements. So it will take away that non-conforming status on the site. And here's a couple pictures provided by the applicant just to show kind of where there's areas that need some repair or maintenance on the Klein mansion, which consequently might have impacts to the overall brick where it needs to be replaced. So this is one area. There's some areas of unsettling. Again, working through that may or may not require replacement. There's pockets or openings that they're hoping to fill in there, kind of more so on the front porch area. And then one of the areas is on the corner of the front porch. One of the piers there was damaged by a falling tree this year. So they'd like to repair this and obviously do it in kind with the same brick. And then there's also secondary criteria for demolition, and there was one pointed out, which is item A from the secondary criteria, the merit of the structure to be demolished. So again, based on the assessment from the structural engineer, that the conclusion was it's not in good shape, major repairs do need to happen, which would ultimately mean kind of raising the structure physically to correct some of the foundational pieces. So there's a lot of significant things that would need to happen in order for it to be fully repaired. And like I said before, since it's non-conforming, some of these structural repairs would trigger kind of a need to bring it into conformance. And then as we get to the new construction, I'm not going to go through all the standards that are laid out for looking at new construction and a site alteration permit. They're all listed within the report that was given to you, and that's listed online. So I just want to touch on a few that are significant to this project in particular. Standard B, the general compatibility of the architectural style, arrangement, texture, color, materials used on the existing and proposed structures with the character of the historic resource in its site or the historic district. So just looking at kind of the significance of the Klein Mansion and how this detached garage is compatible with that. So a lot of the pieces that are being used on the new detached garage are kind of a nod to the Klein Mansion, but it's not so much to replicate the Klein Mansion, rather it's to be cohesive with and complement it and not give this false hood of old within the new construction. It's trying to differentiate itself enough to being new, but also being cohesive. Standard D2, which is Secretary of Interior Standards. The historic character of the property will be retained and preserved. The removal of distinctive materials or alteration of features, spaces, and spatial relationships that characterize a property will be avoided. So again, to the piece of retaining and preserving, the demolition of the existing garage will help retain the original brick on the main building and replace it where necessary. And then getting into the new construction here, the new garage will be larger than what's existing out there today, but it will meet zoning standards. Enlarging it will also provide more functionality to the site itself. The existing detached garage definitely wasn't sized to the standard that you see today. It was sized to what type of vehicles they had back then. So again, it will allow them to use the property in a more functional way and have a building that's more complementary in terms of scale to the Klein Mansion, being that it's a large structure. The front yard element of the site will still be maintained to a certain extent. The detached garage will be located more forward than the existing detached garage, so you will see it more prominently from 4th Street, but it's still set back further than the Klein Mansion. So it's not going to be more forward than kind of the more prominent building. Again, they've set it back as much as they can to meet setback requirements. So again, they're providing the most amount of separation from the street level, meeting both zoning requirements and setbacks. The separation from the home is generally maintained, so the spatial relationship there is generally the same as you see it today. And let's see. And just also want to note that they did go through multiple iterations of how they were designing this new detached garage. They provided a snippet of kind of all the iterations that they looked at in their narrative, which was numerous. And they ultimately landed on the one that you see tonight. I'll show a different slide kind of getting into that a little bit more between two different concepts and why this one was kind of the more appropriate route to go. And then lastly, one of the more applicable standards is D9. New additions related new construction will not destroy historic materials, features, and spatial relationships that characterize the property. The new work will be differentiated from the old and will be compatible with the historic materials, features, size, scale, proportion, etc. So again, their purpose was to design it to be differentiated from the old. So again, they weren't trying to mimic and replicate the materials on the main structure so that, again, it wouldn't come off as a false replication of the old. They are providing cohesive pieces in terms of the colors with the detached garage, but the materials will be different. So the stucco material is new and different, and the standing seam metal roof is also new and different to the site. And then in terms of the fencing that they're proposing, it's decorative and it's also set back from the street. So again, that will help kind of delineate a private area for them on the site, which again, the site currently doesn't have. This would help privatize areas on the site for them to be able to use. Here's a slide just showing a couple iterations that they've done. The top one is if they were to meet zoning for accessory structures fully, this is how it would look. So you would have two different structures, one 768 square foot, 3-stall garage, and then a separate storage shed. And then the bottom one is a more enlarged version of kind of what you see today. Again, when they looked at meeting zoning fully, and I think when we looked at it together, it just didn't feel right in terms of two buildings versus one. It felt very sprinkled and like too much on the site. So being able to convert it into one felt more complementary in terms of the scale of the Klein mansion itself. Plus it just felt more cohesive as well. So in conclusion, we feel that the applicant has done a good job of providing a new construction that will complement the historic character of the Klein mansion home, but also provide different elements and materials to be able to be differentiated from the old and historic on the property. In addition to that, functionality will be added to the property, being that they'll be able to provide a functional garage with space, with adequate space, and then also a private yard space that they currently don't have. And then the brick on the detached garage will allow them to do the appropriate maintenance to the home without having to try to replicate that unique brick that's found on the home. It will also be able to give them a stockpile for any future maintenance. So that's definitely a benefit. And then lastly, the new construction will eliminate the non-conforming status on the structure. So that's definitely a benefit as well for the site. So with that, we are asking you to make a motion tonight to approve the demolition of the detached garage and construction of a new detached garage at the CP Klein Mansion with address 205 4th Street East. And then that approval is based on or subject to the following conditions that are listed in your report. So there's 5 conditions there, including some of the graphic elements with the project. So that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions that the commission has. Otherwise, we do have Neil and Sarah Amundsen in the audience here, as well as Dan Peterson with U+B Architecture, who has been helping with kind of the development of their plans and submittal here.
Thank you, Liz. That was quite thorough. Sarah and Neil, is there anything you'd like to add to the presentation?
I feel like we exhausted our time. I you know, as I look back at the narrative that I know is attached for each of your review, this continues to be a project of passion. And, you know, with the support of U+B and a lot of other general contractor, structural engineers, you know, we didn't take this decision lightly. As we I think, moved through the motions with the Simmons livery and all of the steps with HPC in the city to renovate that building, and then approach this home, that the space that we now call home. We wanted to make sure that we were doing the right thing for the property, the right thing for the legacy of the historical integrity for Chaska, and feel really good about this recommendation. And absolutely want to thank Elizabeth for all her help in guiding us through the process and preparing for tonight. But Otherwise, I don't think that I can add, or Neil could even add a lot more to the materials that have been provided to support the recommendation tonight.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. This is a public hearing, so we're going to open up for the public hearing at 7:50 p.m. here and see if there's anyone that'd like to speak. If there is someone. Liz, I don't see anyone on the Zoom with us here from the public.
Mike, do you have anyone on your end that might be raising their hand? I'm gonna actually get out of the.
I don't see anyone in our list anywhere.
Okay.
Okay. Now, there is no one to speak since no one has spoken. We're going to close the public hearing. It's still 7:50 p.m. Thank you. And now we're going to bring this back to the commission now for their discussion. Any commissioners present have any comments or questions you'd like to place for Liz, Neil, or Sarah?
I do, Russ. First of all, I'd say I agree completely with the staff analysis. I think the project is tremendous and a real plus for downtown Chaska. I do have a few questions that are more on just on the specifications that I saw. One of them was, I didn't see the specs for the privacy fence as far as its height. I understand now that it is cedar and I guess it's painted white. Is that correct?
Dan, can you confirm on the privacy fence? Because I'm assuming you're asking on the privacy fence side, right?
Yes, on the north side of the site, the privacy fence. That is cedar and it is to be painted.
That's
And
correct.
what's the height? Is it 5 feet?
We have it as a 6-foot fence right now.
Okay. Good. And I had a question too. Does the city have any power over the neighbors and those two storage buildings that are there? Because they're a real eyesore. One of them's in pretty bad shape.
Yeah, I don't know if that would factor into like a building code maintenance piece, but certain properties are allowed accessory structures. And then, you know, if they start to deteriorate, it may trigger a building maintenance code, but it would have to be like falling over, you know, critters in it, stuff like that, in order for the building department to really step in. So even though it might be unsightly, it might not necessarily be an enforcement tactic we can go after.
And those buildings as they sit are allowed by code, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Another thing that I saw was the color that was specified for the overhead garage doors was Terra Bronze, which I think the color should be white, correct?
That's a typo on my part, yes.
Okay. And then a question on the retaining walls. There's retaining walls being built or repaired along the alley. And then there's another retaining wall being built on the north side. Is that correct? Are those poured
That's correct.
concrete?
Pardon me, I didn't hear the end of your question.
Are they poured concrete or what type of material?
We're looking at a modular system that is, you know, it's not the Keystone system, but it's a much cleaner, looks more like a cut stone system. But I don't think it's going to be poured concrete at this point.
Okay. Does that require removal then of the existing retaining wall on the alley?
Yes, I don't think it would take much, but yeah.
Okay. Looks pretty bad.
Yeah.
A stiff wind, maybe.
I think that's all the questions I had. They were just kind of on some of the specifications. Overall, I think it's just tremendous the way it's been laid out. And I think the scale of the building, the storage and garage are perfect. And I think that color match with the metal roof to existing tile roof is great. Really well done.
Yeah, Steve, I was going there. I was taking notes as Liz was giving us this dissertation. I was worried about that. And then when we saw the views, wow, look great. And I had the same concerns, you know, in my neighborhood, we worry about what type of fencing people are putting up. And I was going to ask but the view, but it's really nice, a beautiful fence. And I found the whole thing's a great compromise and balance. And the resources that you have to work with to restore the brick in the home, all that. I'm encouraging if someone has the guts to take care of this property and bring it back to what it can be. I'm excited that you have this passion to do it, because we walk the streets all the time. It's a beautiful place, and now to see it brought to a better
Well, our
point.
friends and family think we're a little crazy, so I don't, maybe it's guts, maybe it's crazy, but
No.
we're in love with it, so.
We often say that we're kind of built for this sort of challenge. And it's certainly, as I like to say to people I talk to passing by, it's a diamond in the rough. And there's a lot of rough that we're dealing with, but it's still diamond. So.
Yeah, no, it's neat. It's a great property. But Liz, the presentation was very thorough. I have no further questions.
Well, you're also preserving important history for Chaska, so thank you for that.
Yeah.
It's our pleasure.
Any other commissioners have questions or comments? Nicely done presentation, Sarah and Neil. It was to me, very, very, very thorough. And I bet that wasn't free either, right? They would do all that work.
You have to chalk most of it up to Dan's work.
Yeah, Dan is very talented architect.
Well, no, since there are no other questions, would anyone like to make a motion to approve the alteration permit for the CP Klein mansion?
So moved.
Commissioner Mueller moves. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That's Commissioner Welver seconds the motion. Could do a roll call. All those in favor, please, Liz?
Yep. Commissioner Davies,
Aye.
Coleman,
Aye.
Mueller,
Aye.
Place,
Aye.
Welbert,
Aye.
and Chairperson St. John.
Aye. Great job, Sarah and Neil. Thank you very, very much. And Dan?
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thanks for your time this evening. We really appreciate it. And Elizabeth, again, thanks for all your
Yeah,
help. and
Your
support.
help.
See you in town.
Absolutely. Thank you, you guys. Wonderful job.
Yeah, we moved to item 8, other business. I'm going to walk through and ask each commissioner if there's anything else you'd like to discuss under new business tonight. Commissioner Davies?
No.
No. Commissioner Pleiss?
No.
Commissioner Welvert?
Nothing new here.
Commissioner Coleman?
No?
Commissioner Mueller?
I do have something. The Chaska Historical Society is working on a booklet for Chaska owners of historical homes. It's mainly about maintenance, minor maintenance work. And we're getting close to the point where we think it's good, and then we're going to hand it over to Liz to review and get it set up. So it'll be something that we can give to owners of historical homes in Chaska if they ask the question of what they need to do, whether they need approval of the work they're doing or whether it's minor enough to be done without approvals. And then if it is that minor, then we have suggestions and helpful hints as to how to do the work. So that should be coming up in this month, where we hand it over to Liz, and then I would assume we'd have everyone in the commission look at it too.
Excellent. Thanks. That'd be awesome. Awesome. I just had a comment. I want to thank everyone for the work on the property. Is on Cardinal Street, Liz, that Kirsten worked on. The commission worked hard. Liz, you worked hard on that, and it broke my heart to see notification that it wasn't going to work out. But great team spirit and try to preserve an old property that's now going to leave forever. But thank you, everyone. Well, Liz, are there any other items that you would like to discuss tonight?
No, I think that was a good segue because I wanted to give kind of a verbal update to everyone on the Hammer Saloon. I obviously wanted to have a meeting in November just to give you more forewarning. But We were given word from Kirsten Case as I forwarded that email or attached it to the packet tonight, just to inform you all that financing just did not work out on her end. I know she was working tirelessly with the banks to try to solidify some financing to be able to renovate the Hammer Saloon, and it just didn't end up working out. And I don't know if the COVID climate has really factored into that, but it certainly posed a challenge, I think, from a financing perspective. And so she just didn't have any other option. We didn't have anyone kind of in as an alternate to be able to step in and save that structure. And, you know, the way we did the approvals on the Hammer Saloon, it was contingent on it being renovated by a certain point in time so that it could cohesively tie in with the proposed development. So yeah, I'm also here to just bring that unfortunate news, and also just pose some sadness with us not being able to physically be able to save that structure. But like Russ said, or Chairperson St. John said, we appreciate everyone's help and commitment to try to save the structure. If it wasn't for Kirsten, that structure would have been long gone 2 years ago. So the fact that there was some fight to try to save it was very admirable on her part, and I appreciate everyone's involvement in it. So that's just my added notes on that property. And then also just another note or something that may come up, but just want to get general thought on it, which is also applicable to kind of the application that we reviewed tonight. But from a different city council meeting, pretty recent here, we were also looking at a non-conforming accessory building in the city for a variance approval, and it was subsequently denied because of its non-conforming status to be able to alter it. But it does bring up an interesting conversation of looking at downtown properties in particular with some of the unique conditions that we're faced with in downtown, specifically with setbacks and the construction of some of these buildings that are older and more unique and so forth. So it does beg the conversation of, you know, how do we treat these properties moving forward, specifically ones that are non-historic, but also ones that are historic, because when you get put into a historic category, we do have to look at it differently because it is historic. But then we also have the ones that are non-historic that to a T have to meet all zoning requirements and so forth. So as staff, we're starting to realize that there's a bigger conversation that needs to be had in how we approach some of these downtown properties, both historic and non-historic, with non-conforming statuses on them, and how we should approach that, but also how we should approach just downtown properties in general with accessory buildings. So I just want to get your general consensus on whether or not you would be interested in taking part in maybe a work session or just further conversation on that with staff. We don't have anything really set up right now, but we did want to just get your initial feedback on what your thoughts are on that, if you'd be implored to participate in a conversation like that, being that you're the HPC and, you know, we review historic properties. I think it would be important to have some level of HPC involvement in that discussion.
I'd be interested. Before tonight, I might not have been. now you see how the main property ties to accessory buildings, and what the family that presented today kind of tied it all together in a kind of a poetic way. That's nice. So I think it's worth discussing more, because it looks like there are more of these little buildings, accessory buildings in town. So I think it's worth talking about. I think we should be involved.
Great. Well, I mean, unless anyone else has anything to say on that, I mean, we're just generally trying to kind of put our feelers out there on, you know, if this is something that we should explore further. Again, we don't know how yet, but we certainly think there's a discussion that needs to be had, and that applicable commissions should be involved in that discussion. So.
Oh. Anything else on your mind, Liz?
I don't think so. That's all I've got under other business.
Any guess when we might have our next meeting, or is it just gonna be TBD here?
Well, yeah, for now, probably TBD. Obviously, for us right now, our magnitude of meeting is kind of based on applications coming in, and we didn't receive anything today for next month's meeting, so I don't foresee us having anything to review. But if you guys have certain things you want to talk about or anything like that, we probably will need to recircle back and just, you know, this was a weird year, and I know we set up some goals for this year, which kind of went on the back burner just with COVID and everything. So it might be good for us to circle back in February or March to kind of set up how we hope to approach 2021, which will hopefully look a lot better for us. So I think that's my only other thoughts.
Liz, I've got another question. I just thought about the Ernst House and that adjacent empty lot. What's happened to that project?
You know, that's a good question. Last time we met, I know we were kind of walking through downtown. We thought we had maybe the CDA with the county involved in that property, but I'm not sure their status right now. So I need to ask around with our city administrator and assistant city administrator if that's still moving forward, because that would be the reason the project would move forward again, because unfortunately the original applicant has backed out of the project. They couldn't make the dollars make sense basically with the project, like being that they couldn't get back revenue that they're basically putting into it, so they had to step away from the project altogether. So at this point, we assumed that the CDA would take it over, but we may need to circle back with them and see if that's even a viable option. So
thanks for the update.
Good
stuff. Well, if no one else has anything on their mind, I'd like to ask someone to make a motion to adjourn tonight.
So moved.
Mr. Mueller moves to adjourn. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Commissioner Coleman seconds. Liz, do we do a roll call to adjourn, or?
yeah, we should.
Okay,
One
please
second.
do a roll call, please.
Yes, that was a first by Mueller and a second by Coleman, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Roll call. Commissioner Davies.
Aye.
Commissioner Coleman.
Aye.
Mueller.
Aye.
Place.
Aye.
Welbert.
Aye.
And Chairperson St. John.
Aye. It's on that. Unanimous. This meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everyone. If we don't speak, have a great rest holiday season.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Meeting's
Bye.
adjourned. Good night.
Bye.
Bye.